What if some of the worst things you can buy aren't the things that cost thousands of dollars? What if they're the things that cost $10, $20, or $50? Because a purchase doesn't have to be expensive to be a bad financial decision. Sometimes the real waste is buying something you'll barely use, something you already own, something designed to make you spend again, or something that solves a problem you didn't actually have. And these purchases are dangerous because they don't feel expensive. A $15 purchase doesn't trigger the same hesitation as a $1,500 purchase. But make enough $15 decisions, and suddenly you're wondering where your money went. So let's look at 10 things that are often terrible uses of your money, and more importantly, why they keep tempting us in the first place. 1. Extended warranties on cheap products. Imagine you're buying a $40 appliance. At checkout, you're offered an extended warranty for another $8. It sounds reasonable. It's only $8. But here's the problem. You're paying extra money to protect yourself from a relatively small loss. And companies don't offer warranties because they're hoping to lose money on them. They price warranties so that, on average, the premiums they collect exceed what they pay out. That doesn't mean every warranty is bad. For an expensive product where a repair could genuinely hurt you, protection can make sense. But for a $30 appliance, sometimes the better strategy is simply accepting that you might eventually have to replace it. If losing $40 would be financially devastating, you have a bigger problem than the warranty. 2. Single-use kitchen gadgets. Avocado slicers, egg separators, banana cutters, specialty choppers. Gadgets designed to perform one extremely specific task. They look useful because the problem is presented to you before you've even realized you have it. You think, that would make my life easier. Maybe. But then the gadget goes into a drawer, and 3 months later, you're using the same knife you've always used. The issue isn't that these products are inherently terrible. It's that the cost per use can become ridiculous. Spend $25 on something you use twice, and you've effectively spent $12.50 every time you used it. Meanwhile, a basic kitchen tool you use hundreds of times can cost less per use. Before buying a specialized gadget, ask, could something I already own do this job? If the answer is yes, put the gadget back. 3. Cheap clothing you'll barely wear. This one is deceptive because a $20 shirt feels cheap, but cheap doesn't automatically mean good value. Imagine you buy 5 $20 pieces because they're on sale. That's $100. Then you discover you only really like 2 of them. The other 3 sit in your closet. You've now spent $60 on clothing that isn't adding much value to your life. A better question isn't, how cheap is this? It's, how often will I actually use it? A $100 jacket worn 100 times costs roughly $1 per wear. A $20 shirt worn twice costs $10 per wear. Price matters, but cost per use often matters more. 4. Subscription services. You forgot about this might be one of the easiest ways to waste money because you don't feel the payment happening. $9.99 here, $14.99 there, $6.99 somewhere else. Individually, they don't seem important, but suppose you have 5 subscriptions averaging $12 a month. That's $60 a month, or $720 a year. And if you're barely using 2 of them, you're effectively paying $288 a year for services you don't value. The solution isn't to cancel everything, it's to audit your subscriptions. Look at the last 30 days. Ask, did I actually use this? If not, cancel it. And if you miss it later, you can always subscribe again. 5. Upgrades you don't actually need. This is where technology becomes expensive. Your phone works, your laptop works, your television works. Then a new version comes out. The camera is slightly better, the screen is slightly brighter, the processor is slightly faster, and suddenly your perfectly functional device feels old. That's the upgrade trap. If your current device solves your problem, replacing it doesn't automatically improve your financial life. Let's say you upgrade a $1,000 phone 2 years earlier than necessary. That's $1,000 that could have stayed invested. Hypothetically, if that $1,000 earned an average 8% annually for 20 years, it could grow to roughly $4,660. That's not a prediction. It's simply the mathematics of compounding. The point is that money spent today has an opportunity cost. Sometimes the smartest upgrade is not upgrading. 6. Convenience purchases. You make because you're tired. This one is different because you're not necessarily buying the product. You're buying relief. You're exhausted after work, so you order $35 of delivery. You're too tired to compare prices. So you buy the first thing you see, you're rushing. So you pay extra for convenience. And occasionally, that's completely reasonable. The problem is when exhaustion becomes a permanent spending strategy. If you order $30 of delivery twice a week, that's around $3,120 a year. You don't need to eliminate delivery, but if you can solve the underlying problem, maybe by keeping easy meals at home, you can reduce the spending without making your life miserable. Sometimes the waste isn't the convenience itself, it's using money to repeatedly solve a problem that could be solved once with a better system. 7. Purchases made mainly to impress other people. This might be the most expensive one psychologically. The nicer car, the designer clothes, the expensive watch, the latest phone, the vacation you can barely afford. Not because you genuinely want the thing, but because you want people to see you differently. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to think about your purchases for very long. You might spend $8,000 upgrading your car. Your friends might notice for 5 minutes. Then everyone goes back to their own lives. But you keep making the payments. That's a terrible trade. If you genuinely love the car, that's one thing. But if the primary benefit is other people's approval, you're paying real money for an emotion that disappears quickly. 8. Bulk purchases. You don't actually need buying in bulk feels financially intelligent, and sometimes it is. If you regularly use something, buying a larger quantity can reduce the cost per unit. But there's a catch. A discount on something you don't need is still spending. Suppose something costs $10. You can buy one for $10 or 3 for $24. The 3-pack looks like a bargain. But if you only needed one, you didn't save $6. You spent $14 more than necessary. And there are other hidden costs. Extra storage, products expiring, food going unused, money tied up in things sitting in your house. The best deal isn't always the lowest price per unit. It's the lowest cost for what you'll actually consume. 9. Things you buy. Because they're on sale. This is one of the oldest psychological tricks in retail. Something is marked down from $100 to $60. Your brain sees, I saved $40. But that's not necessarily what happened. If you didn't need the item, you didn't save $40, you spent $60. Sales can distort the way we evaluate purchases because we're comparing the current price with an imaginary price we never intended to pay. Here's a simple rule. Before looking at the discount, ask, would I buy this at full price? If the answer is no, the sale probably isn't creating value for you. It's creating a reason to spend. 10. Stuff you buy to fix a boring or stressful life. And this might be the biggest one of all. Sometimes we don't actually want the thing. We want the feeling we think the thing will give us. A stressful week? Buy something. Bad day? Order something. Feeling bored? Go shopping. Feeling behind? Upgrade something. For a moment, the purchase creates excitement. Then the feeling fades, and you're back where you started, except with less money. This is where spending can become a loop. Stress to purchase to temporary relief to feeling fades to purchase again. The answer isn't to never buy anything enjoyable. That's not realistic. The goal is to recognize when you're using shopping as emotional medication. Because if the real problem is boredom, exhaustion, loneliness, or stress, another package arriving at your door may not solve it. It might only postpone the problem. None of these things are universally bad. That's important. An extended warranty can make sense. A kitchen gadget can be genuinely useful. A new phone can be necessary. Bulk buying can save money. A subscription can provide enormous value. The problem is buying without asking what you're actually getting in return. And that's the bigger financial skill. Not becoming someone who never spends money. becoming someone who knows why they're spending it. Before you buy something, ask 3 questions. Will I actually use this? Does it solve a real problem? And what else could this money do for me? Because that last question changes everything. A $50 purchase isn't just $50. It could be $50 toward an emergency fund, $50 toward paying down high-interest debt, $50 invested for the future, or $50 spent on something you genuinely value. The goal isn't to squeeze every dollar until spending becomes miserable. It's to stop wasting money on things that don't matter. Because financial freedom isn't built by never buying anything. It's built by becoming extremely intentional about what deserves your money. And once you stop spending on things you don't value, you don't necessarily feel poorer. You often feel richer. Because now more of your money is going toward the life you actually want. Educational content only. Nothing on this channel is financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. I'm Morgan Valls. Build small, grow strong, live free, and I'll see you in the next video.